Awolnation.
If you could go back in time to when you were 11, what advice would you give yourself?
That's a great question. If I could go back to being the age of 11, I would probably tell myself that everything's going to be much better than you think, and not to sweat all the small things, and that to not be so shy, I think, is what I would tell myself.
Were you in choir when you were in school?
I was not in choir, although I believe when I was in maybe around the age of 11, I think music class was mandatory, part of our curriculum at our school. So I did sing at some point. There was choir class, but I never joined the choir, if that makes sense. It was a mandatory thing. So, but I honestly, what I vaguely remember of that, I sang extremely quiet and I didn't want anyone to hear me at all. So I definitely wasn't confident about it.
And did you play any instruments in school?
Well, I learned how to play. I didn't play for any of the schools I went to. I wasn't in band, but I learned how to play guitar at a really young age. My dad taught me a couple tunes. He taught me La Bamba, and Mom taught me a couple other songs. So I was in a musical family and picked up an instrument at a pretty young age. I must have been in 3rd grade, I think.
What is something you learned at school when you were a kid that you don't need to know as an adult?
Quite a few things. That's probably the wrong person to ask that question to. Well, I think it's important to get good grades so you could, you know, establish yourself and get by in that manner. But I think it's really important to also read other books, and in addition to what the curriculum, I guess, forces you to have to study, you know. So I would definitely encourage any children, I suppose, out there to read as much as possible. That's one thing I do regret. Another thing I would say to my 11-year-old self before is to read much more than I did. I always thought reading was like boring, you know, and then now I can't get enough of it. So I would definitely, and I regret not taking more time to read. So that was sort of 2 answers in one, I guess.
When you were growing up, or even now, did you have any nicknames?
Well, yes, I did. One of my nicknames was Barney. Not like the purple guy, but it was sort of a nickname when I started surfing with my dad and my older brother, and I wasn't very good at it. So when a guy can't surf very good, they call him a Barney. So my nickname was Barney right out of the gates, and it stuck with me. And my dad still calls me that to this day.
Describe each member of the band using only one word.
Okay. Dave, our bass player, would be just solid. Dave would be solid. I wanted to use multiple words for Dave. Kenny, our keyboard player, would be slick. Drew, our guitar player, I would have to say would be smooth. Hayden, our drummer, would be ferocious. And I think that's everybody in the band.
What's the best prank or trick that anyone has ever played on you?
Sort of a long story, but on April Fools, I didn't realize it was April Fools, and basically someone convinced me that the Russian mafia was after me and that I had to leave town, and I did leave town as a result and went to stay at a friend's house in San Diego, which is south of where I live in the Los Angeles area. And I was frightened to death. I called my older brother to ask him what I should do, and it turns out they were just playing a prank on me. So that was probably the worst prank anyone's ever done. There's a few others, but it's probably not just the best time to mention. No.
Who is the most famous person you've ever had on your guest list?
I don't know. That's a really good question. The most famous person. I know the creators of South Park were on our guest list for the New York show we played about a year ago, but we never saw them, so I'm not sure if they actually made it. But I don't know. I don't know how many celebrities come to our shows. I'm not sure who that would be. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm boring for that answer, but I don't think too many celebrities like us, I guess.
What was your second choice for a band name?
Well, I was either going to name this band Awolnation, or I was going to go by my own name, which is Bruno. And I decided Awolnation sounded much cooler than my own name. And I didn't think anyone would want to buy the Bruno t-shirt, you know. I thought it was more important to have some sort of thing that you can get behind. Much like all the bands I liked growing up. I always preferred band names as opposed to solo artists, I guess.
Have you ever forgotten the words to your songs during a concert?
I have, yes. I've done it a few times. Or sometimes, you know, you play the song so much that you'll switch verses. So sometimes I'll say the second verse in the first verse, or you know, the bridge lyrics in some sort of other situation accidentally. And I normally try to make up for it and make it seem like it was intentional, and try to insert the wrong lyrics back in its appropriate place to go full circle to really mess it up even more.
Who's your favorite Spice Girl?
What's David Beckham's wife's name?
Posh?
Posh. I would say Posh, because I really like how she dresses. She has great fashion sense. She's very fierce. What about you guys?
Scary, yeah.
Scary Spice? She was too scary for me.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Say